Felix Steiner was one of the most prominent and influential generals of the Waffen-SS. His rise was swift, beginning with the effective leadership of the Deutschland Regiment, which so impressed Heinrich Himmler that Steiner was personally selected to organize and command the newly formed Viking division. He later became especially known for refusing to carry out Hitler's order to launch an attack from the north in the final days of the war, a decision that prevented his forces from being destroyed in the encirclement of Berlin at the end of World War II in Europe. Felix Steiner was born on May 23, 1996, in Stolopungen, East Prussia, a town now known as Nestorov in Russia's Kaliningrad region. As Germany stood on the brink of World War I in 1914, Steiner entered the Prussian officer corps as a cadet. During the conflict, he distinguished himself in combat, earning both the Iron Cross Second Class and First Class. By the time the war ended, he held the rank of Oberleutnant. In the chaotic years following the war, Steiner commanded a Freikorps unit operating in East Prussia. He re-entered the regular army in 1922, and by 1933 he had advanced to the rank of major. After Adolf Hitler's rise to power, Steiner joined the Reichswehr staff, where he worked on developing new technical concepts and tactical training methods for the German army. During this period, he came under the strong influence of SA ideas and later the emerging doctrines of the SS. Steiner was particularly drawn to the training philosophy of the SS Verfügungstruppe, which encouraged a more informal, cooperative, and trust-based relationship between officers and enlisted men, an approach that was uncommon within the traditional structures of the German armed forces. In 1935, Steiner formally joined the SS and was immediately given command of a battalion. On June 1, 1936, less than a year later, Steiner was promoted to the rank of SS Standartenführer and transferred to Munich, where he assumed command of the Deutschland Regiment. Later that same year, in October 1936, Steiner became one of the founding figures of the SS Junkerschule at Bad Tölz. As the Second World War unfolded, Steiner continued to advance rapidly. By January 24, 1940, he had reached the rank of SS Oberführer, while still serving as commander of SS Deutschland. His leadership during the invasion of Poland and the subsequent campaign in France was widely praised. For his performance in these early victories, Steiner was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross on August 15, 1940. Following the conclusion of the first phase of the war, Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler selected Steiner to organize and oversee the creation of a new Waffen-SS division. This formation was named the Viking Division and was composed of volunteers from across Europe, including Norway, Denmark, Finland, Estonia, the Netherlands, Flemish regions of Belgium, and ethnic Germans from the Balkans. On November 9, 1940, Steiner was promoted to SS Brigadeführer. Under his leadership, the Viking Division became a well-trained, cohesive, and disciplined fighting force. Steiner commanded the division with considerable skill in numerous engagements on the Eastern Front, particularly in Ukraine and the Donbass, where it quickly gained a reputation as a powerful and feared unit. On January 1, 1942, Steiner was promoted to SS Gruppenführer and Lieutenant General of the Waffen-SS. He and his troops subsequently fought in the Kuban Steppes and in the Caucasus, campaigns that further enhanced the division's fame. In recognition of his successful frontline leadership, Steiner received the German Cross in Gold on April 22, 1942, and later, on December 23 of the same year, he was awarded the Oak Leaves to the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. On May 1, 1943, Steiner was appointed commander of the 3rd SS Panzer Corps, which was largely composed of Scandinavian and Western European volunteers. The Corps' principal formations included the 11th SS Volunteer Panzer Grenadier Division Nordland and the 4th SS Volunteer Brigade Niederland. After completing its training, the Corps was deployed to Croatia in October 1943, where it was tasked with combating Tito's partisan forces.
The unit achieved notable success in these operations. As a result, Steiner was promoted on July 1, 1943, to SS Obergruppenführer and General of the Waffen-SS. In December 1943, the corps was transferred to the Leningrad sector, positioned near the western edge of the Oranienbaum bridgehead as part of Army Group North. In January 1944, the corps was severely battered by a major Soviet offensive, forcing it to withdraw westward to defensive positions along the Narva River in Estonia. The Estonian 20th SS Division, recently returned to its homeland, was subordinated to Steiner's corps and played a significant role in the fighting there. On August 10, 1944, Steiner was awarded the Swords to the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross for his leadership in the defense of the Narva front. However, when Soviet forces broke through weaker German units to the south, the 3rd SS Panzer Corps faced the danger of encirclement. In January 1945, Steiner led his corps in a withdrawal to the Kurland Peninsula, where they continued to fight under extremely heavy losses until the end of that month.
The 3rd SS Panzer Corps was subordinated to Army Group Vistula and placed under the newly created 11th Panzer Army, a formation that existed largely on paper. Felix Steiner was appointed as its commander. When Soviet forces reached the Oder region, the 11th Panzer Army effectively ceased to function, and the 3rd SS Panzer Corps was reassigned to the German 3rd Army, where it served as a reserve during the final Soviet offensive against Berlin. On April 21, 1945, during the Battle of Berlin, Marshal Georgy Zhukov's 1st Belarusian Front smashed through German defensive positions at Seelow Heights. Despite the reality on the ground, Hitler reacted by issuing orders without regard for the actual condition of German forces, directing the disorganized units under Steiner's command to immediately halt the Soviet advance. In truth, what was referred to as Steiner's army was little more than a weakened corps, made up of scattered remnants and depleted units left behind after successive Soviet offensives. Nevertheless, Hitler ordered Steiner to launch a counterattack against the northern flank of the Soviet forces, which had become exposed following the advance of the 1st Belarusian Front. This operation was intended to be coordinated with a simultaneous thrust from the south by the 9th Army under General Fyodor Busa, forming a pincer movement aimed at cutting off the Soviet spearhead. Helmuth Weidling's 56th Panzer Corps, still positioned east of Berlin, was also expected to take part in Hitler's plan. However, Steiner ultimately contacted General Gotthard Heinrichi and informed him that such an operation was impossible given the condition of the available forces. Acting on this information, Heinrichi telephoned General Hans Krebs, the chief of the General Staff at the Army High Command, and reported that the proposed attack could not be carried out. Heinrichi then requested permission to speak directly with Hitler, but was later informed that Hitler was too occupied to take the call. On April 22, 1945, during an afternoon conference with his senior staff, Hitler finally accepted the reality that Steiner would not carry out the offensive he had been counting on. Enraged, Hitler declared that the war was lost and announced that he would remain in Berlin until the very end. By April 27, 1945, Berlin was fully encircled as Soviet forces closed in from both the north and the south. Following Germany's surrender, Felix Steiner was taken into custody and remained imprisoned until 1948. He was brought before the Nuremberg proceedings on various charges, but these accusations were eventually dismissed due to a lack of evidence, and Steiner was acquitted. In 1951, together with other former Waffen-SS officers, Steiner became one of the founding members of HIAG, an organization representing veterans of the Waffen-SS. He spent the final decade of his life writing his memoirs and several books reflecting on the war. Felix Steiner died on May 12, 1966.